Guys, wouldn't your wife or girlfriend love it if you treated her to the very best this Christmas? Now you can, with the world's softest pajamas by Pajamagram. Created by a team of pajama experts, the world's softest PJs are lighter than a cloud, softer than a bunny, like cashmere, only better. She'll love how heavenly they feel. Includes free gift packaging and Christmas delivery is guaranteed. So visit pajamagram.com or call 1-800-GIVE-PJs.
This is the Locker Room Podcast.
We welcome you back in the Locker Room with Sean Farnham, Ryan Hollins, Antoine Walker. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776 is the telephone number. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, comparing rates to help you save. Now that's Progressive. Call or click today to find out how much Progressive could save you. Progressive thoughts are always important when you're in the front office. You're trying to see a long-term vision, and sometimes you need to understand where you're at to have a short-term vision. And right now, when we look at the NBA, Antoine Walker said earlier this hour, thought the playoffs were horrible. This is bad basketball. So how do teams in the league right now compete with the Cavs and Warriors? We tie a bow on this NBA season. The playoffs went as scripted. It went as if we closed our eyes and said, okay, next year, who's going to be in the finals, all things considered? Cavs, Warriors again. Is that good, first of all, for the NBA to have super teams, teams that are so far and above everybody else? That's one. Two would be, if you're not one of those two teams, how are you planning the next season, the next 4 seasons, as the age starts to tick in on both the Cavs and the Warriors? And I'll start with you, Antoine.
Well, obviously I'm old school, so I want to touch real quickly. I think Kevin Durant has put the league, out of whack right now for the next couple of years. And there's nothing wrong with free agency, being able to go where you want to go, but to be able to him joining that team made it really unfair. A team that already won 73 games, a team that already had a 2-time MVP, 2 other All-Stars, all NBA players, and to join that team made it really unfair for other teams around the league. And it's probably, if they're able to sign all those guys back. And then the thing that's going to happen for Golden State, and a lot of people don't know this, is veteran guys, look, Ryan, there's veteran guys that have made $150, $200 million but never played in the finals and never won a ring.
Oh yeah.
They're gonna go to Golden State. So they're going to continually be good because they're going to be able to get those veteran guys who still have 1 or 2 years left in the tank and is going to take that pay cut to go play with them. So they're going to be very good. I think, obviously, you look at Cleveland, LeBron James was unbelievable, averaging a triple-double in the finals. His game has not diminished at all. With Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love, they're going to be very good. They still will have the domination over teams in the Eastern Conference. And us knowing LeBron James, he's going to make the organization make another move to add a piece. We don't know who that piece is going to be, so he can compete a little bit better against Golden State.
Hey, Twan, I feel like if he doesn't get Paul George for Kevin Love in the trade, if that move doesn't happen, he's probably out of there. And if you look at LeBron,
Ryan, you're saying LeBron's leaving again?
No.
Let me throw this out. Let me give you a time frame. Let me give you some food for thought, fellas. Can I give you some food for thought?
Yes, at 9:35 a.m. on Father's Day in the West Coast, 12:35 Eastern, Ryan Hollins announced on ESPN Radio that LeBron James is going to leave Cleveland again. Okay,
if he doesn't get Paul George, if he doesn't get a Jimmy for Kevin Love so he can compete with Durant so that he can take a rest, as we talked about earlier, Twan, he's out of there because LeBron's starting to think about his legacy. LeBron is a businessman on and off the court. And LeBron can make so much more money in L.A. than he can in Cleveland. And he's done his job. He's done everything that he said. I'm going to bring a champion. I'm going to bring the first championship to the city. He ingrained him, put him in the Hall of Fame. There's nothing you can say about him. LeBron, the businessman, comes to L.A. with Magic, right?
I understand where you're coming from. I disagree with you. I don't think he's going to go. I don't think he's going to leave. Paul George is going to be very difficult to get over there. Obviously, I'm sure LeBron would love to have Paul George. I don't necessarily believe that Cleveland's that far away. I mean, people can disagree with me. I looked at the games. I just think they're one player possibly away, a guy that can give LeBron a break. I think if –
So, Twan, okay, you said a guy that can give a break, right? Kevin Love can't give him a break. I love K-Love. K-Love will be a great fit for the Pacers. Now, you get a guy fresh onto his deal, right?
If you could talk if you can talk the Indiana Pacers to giving up Paul George for Kevin Love, then you're a bad man, Ryan. Because I don't think that's gonna happen. You're a bad man if you can pull that one off. I don't think that's gonna happen. I think when you look at how the rosters, because I wouldn't take, if I'm Indiana, I'm not giving up Paul George.
Listen, Kevin still has some years left. And now, Paul, you're losing him anyway.
Okay.
He's putting up. I'm not saying Paul is saying it, but he's gone.
If you're going to lose him, then I'm picking up. If I'm the Pacers, if I'm going to lose him, Paul George agent calls and says, look, Paul's not going to re-sign with you. He wants to go. I am picking up the phone, and I am calling Danny Ainge. And I'm going to say, listen, Danny Ainge, you have 7 first-round picks over the next couple years. Talk to me. That's the phone call I'm making. I'm not calling the Cleveland Cavaliers. And just one real quick on LeBron, Cleveland Cavaliers situation. What's going on in Cleveland right now, and why they're capped? I think they had the second highest payroll, if not number one. And the reason that they have no flexibility is because of LeBron James. You got to remember his agent Rich Paul, which is his best friend, represents Tristan Thompson, represents J.R. Smith. Yeah. So he took care of his guys. So I think
Twan, as a player, you love that, don't you? We gotta love that.
I love it. I mean, I wish I had a friend like that. I'd still be in the league.
Man.
But I mean, that's saying so. I think LeBron James understands that he's done that to that organization, to Cleveland, and I think he's going to ride it out with them. I think he believes that they're not far away. You got to believe he's still.
Yeah. By the way, guys, we're acting like they lost the series 3-1. But they're not that far away because they were in the finals always.
Sean, you could see it on his face when he made the comment about, man, that's the most firepower I ever played against. That's an A++ team. LeBron in so many ways was saying, look, if I can't sit down for 5 to 10 minutes at a time and give my team a rest and we're getting blown out, this is a problem. K-Love, I might be shipping you out. I need somebody to give me a rest, and it wasn't happening. So then they lost, and they couldn't outbeat them up. They couldn't out-rebound them. And, Twan, I was with you. I thought that Cleveland was tougher. I thought they were grittier. I thought that the Warriors lost rim protection, and I thought that with them losing rim protection, LeBron and Kyrie would have a field day at the rim. And guess what? They did. But they substituted 2s for 3s, which was a problem. That's why they need another two-way player. We need 3-and-D guys. Or they need someone who can just, look, flat out, Tron, like you said, give LeBron a rest.
Yeah, okay, guys. This is the Locker Room. Sean Farnham, Ryan Hollins, Antoine Walker here on ESPN. Okay, so we agree. The Warriors are out in front. The Cavs are chasing. What does that mean for the rest of the association, though? What does that mean for a team like the San Antonio Spurs and where they're at right now as an organization?
It's going to come down to the stars of the league. The other guys, like, say, Chris Paul. Right now, he has a unique opportunity. I mean, it's tough because the money is so, spread out when you think about it. It's tough to leave $50 million on the table. That's what Chris Paul would be leaving on the table. But is he willing to go to the San Antonio Spurs? Is Blake Griffin willing to make a move? We've seen in the past, and obviously they've had some injuries, but the Clippers have yet to, put that thing together. So I don't think they can get it done. So does those guys go somewhere else, take a little less money to go see if they can win a championship and join together? You look at Gordon Hayward. Is he willing to leave Utah knowing that, I like Utah. They won 51 games this year. But they're not. We just saw in the playoffs against Golden State. They got blown out every game. It wasn't even close. Do we go to the Boston Celtics where it may be a little bit easier route for him to get to the finals? Those are decisions that's going to make to see if this thing really works in the league. If the other superstars are willing to leave money on the table to go join other teams for less money. I don't know if that's going to happen. That's tough to do that. I wouldn't leave $50 million on the table. That's too much money to leave on the table. But Chris Paul has that. Chris Paul will be the first guy to start this. Kyle Lowry in Toronto. What is he going to do? Do you go back to Toronto where Cleveland showed domination over you over the last couple of years and you may not be able to beat Cleveland? Do you go join somebody else? Do you go join the San Antonio Spurs?
Yeah, because this is where we're at. So now you just took the player side of things. So yes. I'm going to throw out the general manager side of things, Ryan. So put on your executive hat now. All right, so fine. You're Steve Ballmer. You're Doc Rivers. You're the Clippers. You have this roster that has never been healthy for that stretch run that you've looked for. You seem like you're still a million miles away right now from the Golden State Warriors. Are you going all in and signing long-term deals to guys that are getting older in age, and Chris Paul and then Blake Griffin, who's been often injured, to continue to be relevant but not good enough?
So let me break down the LA scene as a former Clipper, as a LA guy, native, growing up a Laker fan. Laker fans, this is Laker Nation. Win, lose, or draw is still Laker Nation in LA. And that means as they stink, you still have Laker fans, okay? If you're a Clipper, the only way to fill your seats or have somewhat of a marketable year is for you to have bankroll type players, for you to have Chris Paul's, DeAndre's, and Blake Griffins. If you don't have those guys on your roster, if you don't win 50 games, even though you may lose in the first or second round, it's going to be empty. It's going to be ugly. So a team like that has to look in and say, I don't have the luxury of tanking or rebuilding right now. We have to win now. You don't bring in Jerry West to wait. So you bring in Jerry West to say, Jerry, can you bring in one of these big-name free agents? Can you bring the Clippers something that they've never had, okay? And can you take some of the power, respectfully so, out of Doc's hand and say, hey, Doc, I'll bring in the personnel. You, coach, will make this thing happen like that. So in L.A., you have to have a 51 season, even when you look over at the Warriors and you look on the Eastern Conference side and you look at Cleveland and you see how far away you are.
Well, just imagine if the Clippers get rid of CP3 and Blake Griffin, they go elsewhere. Marcellus Wiley would be beside himself.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app with Sean Farnham, Ryan Hollins, Antoine Walker. We roll up our sleeves and we say the doctor's in session right now. The NBA is in need of help. The NBA has two teams that are dominating. The rest of the league is trying to compete. So are you concerned about your team? Are you looking for the remedy for your team? Well, we have the answers, and the doctor's office is open. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Antoine Walker, Ryan Hollins, and myself are here to help you and your team. Let's start with Jason in the beautiful Pacific Northwest of Seattle. He doesn't have a team anymore. They're in Oklahoma City, but nevertheless, he's listening to us on 710 ESPN. Jason, what's up? How you doing?
Hey, thanks, fellas. Just wanted to get your take. If the Blazers were to sign a Paul George or even pry away a Klay Thompson when he's up for a new contract, what do you think the chances are that they could become an actual contender?
Klay gives you a chance. Klay gives you a chance for sure because you got the way they spread the floor and they shoot threes. There's already a dynamic duo up there, and then you have a nice little three-point threesome. And this really pains me to say. This pains me to say, guys, as a big man, as a paint protector, as a dunker, but you win with the three ball now. You win with the three ball.
All right, and when you look at the Trailblazers, okay, look, Damian Lillard, C.J. McCollum. I think Neil O'Shea has done a tremendous job. He was the architect to try to help actually get the Clippers back to relevance when he was the general manager there as well. He's done an outstanding job in Portland so far. But to compete in the Western Conference, Antoine Walker, how do they become more relevant on the free agent market, not just via the draft?
Well, it's tough, man. I mean, because these guys now, the money's so big, it depends on how much guys value winning. And I think Kevin Durant set the standard for that. And obviously, I'm an old school guy, so I didn't like the competitive aspect of it. But when you're a free agent and you're a very good player, you got an opportunity now, the way the league is set up with the salary cap, that you can actually make a ton of money and win. So it depends on how much the value guys put on that. And I think that we'll see examples of that. And I just spoke about it earlier with the Chris Pauls of the world, the Blake Griffins, Paul George coming up, Gordon Hayward. I think they're going to set the tone for where free agency is going, no matter what team it is. It's a players' league right now. When you think about the money that you're making, you can average 8-8 and get you $70 million. So it's a big difference now. I mean, it's so hard to put it, on the GMs now. I mean, all you could do now if you're a GM is sell a team on winning. And Ryan, you talked about the Clippers before we went to the last break, But if I understand the point that you're coming from, that the Clippers should sign their guys back because they've been a winning franchise over the last 7, 8 years, winning 50 games, finally got people in the stands. But do I want to give a 32-year-old Chris Paul $205 million? I mean, that's tough to do.
Yeah, no.
You know, it's very difficult to do, and I can't win with him. And so those are some of the things you have to think about now as a GM that makes it really tough, because you got two power teams in Golden State and the Cavs, and can you get past them? And right now, the way the makeup of most of these teams are, nobody can get past them just on paper.
Well, and I think, going back to the Clippers again, Ryan, you mentioned it. It's a three-point shooting league, and yet you have two prominent players in DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin who really struggle to stretch you at all. And floor spacing-wise, it's not the same when you look at a team like the Warriors that have four shooters and can really space the floor to create lanes, and back cuts and all those things. Let's talk Clippers. Let's go to Eric in Syracuse listening to us on Sirius XM, Channel 80. Eric, what's up? How you doing? Good. I think he was really excited about talking about the Clippers. Hey, you know what? That tells you everything you know about the Clippers.
I will say one thing, though, Sean, to the Clippers and to that same point that you said. Blake has been working on his three ball. Blake can hit a consistent open three. But when Blake's out there shooting threes, you say, gosh, you're one of the best dunkers we've ever seen. Maybe you see Blake come in and spell DeAndre at a little bit of center. Or he steps out and shoots that three. Really,
I'll be honest, Ryan. I don't want Blake Griffin shooting threes. I don't want Blake Griffin shooting threes at all.
I've seen it with my own eyes. Blake is a much improved shooter. He's shooting with Coach Bob Tate. What's up, Bob? And he can make an open three. Now, can he shoot it at the clip as maybe a Draymond or definitely not at the Warriors? But he's far improved, and he can knock down an open three-point shot.
All right, we're taking calls on what your team needs to do to compete with Ryan Hollins, Antoine Walker. I'm Sean Farnham. This is the Locker Room, 888-729-3776. Let's go to Matt in New Orleans, listening to us on 103 FM. Matt?
Hey, guys. Matt, longtime fan, first-time caller. Here's my piece. What do you guys see AD and Boogie being able to do, being the Twin Towers down in New Orleans now? Thanks, guys.
All right, hey, we'll get into that real quick, but I just want to point out, Matt, this is the first time the three of us have actually worked together. So he's been a long-time listener for the last hour, almost the 52 minutes that we've been on. I appreciate you hanging with us, Matt. All right, guys, the experiment that started in the middle of this season, how does it get better for New Orleans? Well,
I mean, let's start with the personnel. They don't have the proper personnel on that team to play alongside of Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins. So, one, the roster's got to get better. They've got to get some three-point shooters, which we're talking about, which is very difficult to do, to add, premium three-point shooters. They're also going to have to get some guys to defend. I think DeMarcus Cousins is not necessarily the best defender in the league. We know Anthony Davis is a two-way player, guy that defends. And then the style of play. I think obviously Alvin Gentry comes from a style of play that plays up and down, shoot threes. You can't play that way with these guys. You got to feature these guys in the half-court set. These guys are tremendous offensive talents. You got to figure out a way how they can play off each other, kind of like the old way with Tim Duncan and David Robinson. And I think these guys are, if not as talented as those guys, because they can shoot the three, because they can dribble. You talk about David Robinson was a throwback center. A guy who played with his back to the basket. These guys don't have to do that. They can step out and put on the floor. So the personnel's got to get better for them to get to be in the style of play. Alvin Gentry has to be more of a half-court coach with these two guys so they can be very dominant.
Hey, Twan, but this is part of the problem. If you're a New Orleans team, and this is the complaint for a lot of the smaller market or less attractive cities to play in, I guess you would say, if you want to get new talent, no one's signing in New Orleans as a free agent. So you have to go out and make a move and kind of gamble on getting Boogie and just throw him with AD and see what happens. So even though they may have not loved that fit, but they had to go out and do that. And those, like you said, Twan, those are two bigs who actually can shoot the three and stretch the floor. So it's an interesting combo, but right now you're winning with guard play. And it pains me to say this, fellas, as a fellow footer, as a big man, but you're winning with guards. You're winning with three-point shooting, which they both can do.
But you got to, I do like the fact that New Orleans made that move. On paper, and you got to be realistic about things. Arguably, we can argue this. These two guys are the top 7 guys in the NBA. I mean, this is so they should be able to coexist and figure this out too. They're not rookies in the league anymore. These guys have been around. They've both lost at a very high level. They should want to win. So they need to dedicate the summer to themselves to get better too.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Hey girl, have you done something new with your scales? Using new moisturizer? Nice. It really brings out the hazel in your eyes. Oh, hold on. Are you using whitening strips too? Your fangs look good, girl. Really good.
A really charming snake charmer? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Wait, what? Have you been doing Pilates too?
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
We welcome you back to the Locker Room. I'm Sean Farnham alongside Ryan Hollins and Antoine Walker. There are some stories you just have to hear to believe, including what we're going to be talking about next. But we're introducing the 30 for 30 podcast, all new stories from the producers of the acclaimed 30 for 30 series. You can now pre-subscribe in the Listen tab of the ESPN app or Apple Podcasts. Once again, that is the 30 for 30 podcast. Make sure you check it out and hear the stories that we love to watch, but now you have to hear to believe. And sometimes there's stories that come out in the headlines, and you start scratching your head going, how is this possible? What happened? And one of those happens to be what took place at Louisville. The escort scandal this week kind of came to a head when the NCAA punished Rick Pitino and Louisville. We're going to break it down in this segment with Rick Pitino's former player, Antoine Walker, who's with us today. First, let's hear from Coach, though, at his press conference, talking about the loss of faith in the NCAA.
For 35-some-odd years, I've had a lot of faith in the NCAA. I've thought in the recent past, they've made some great adjustments to the rules that have helped players along the way. I feel not like everybody here, not only is it unjust, unfair, over the top severe, but I've lost a lot of faith in the NCAA.
So Coach Pitino losing faith in the NCAA. Responsibility has also been a big word in regards to how people have seen this investigation into the Louisville scandal and how it's been handled.
What exactly are you taking responsibility for in all of this?
I'm not answering that question.
Can you tell me why, sir?
Because I don't want to at this point. I take responsibility for this program, and leadership is about leading people the right way, down the right path. And what you're alluding to is I've had 31 assistant coaches go on to become head coaches in the pros as well as assistant coaches in college. Some of the best leaders in the game have been under me, and one person did the wrong thing. So I'm not going to sit here and espouse any more on the what I taught those 31 guys to be great leaders, as well as the one person that did not do the right thing. So I don't have enough time to talk to you about 31 guys and how great they are.
All right, Coach Pitino, a little defiant in his press conference in regards to that question, and we'll open this up with you, Antoine Walker. You played for Coach Pitino. You are still close with Coach Pitino. When you look at everything that came down this week, what are some of the thoughts that you have?
I feel like it's unfortunate. For one, Coach Pitino, I'm going to go on record and saying, and just so you guys know, is that I believe he did not have any recollection of these things that were taking place. I know Andre McGee very well. A few years back when I was still trying to play ball, I went down to Louisville to work out with Coach Pitino and spent 5.5 months with him and got to know Andre really well. Andre, I used to work out in the mornings with Coach Pitino, and at night, Andre McGee would come back and work me out. And got to know him very well. A great guy, a hard worker. Coach Pitino trusted him to do a lot of things with the team and with the young players on his team. So I knew that he was in control of those situations. So when recruits come in town, obviously you can't give your own players money. You give Andre McGee the money to go out with the guys, to take them out and go to dinner and to have a good time when they're on campus. And it's unfortunate that Andre McGee decided to take things upon himself and to basically find these girls for these guys at the end of the night. I don't think Coach Pitino knew that was going on. I know him very well. He was a disciplinarian when I was in school. So even in the process of Coach recruiting me, everything was by the book. When I came in the summer, I had a regular summer job that I had to work 5 days a week and then work Coach Pitino's camp. So that was the only way I made money. So everything was by the book when I was at Kentucky. So that's why I can believe that he's telling the truth. We never had anything like this going on. And I think Andre, and I like Andre a lot, I think he did this upon himself, and he felt like he probably was helping the recruiting out, and obviously he was a young coach. He can relate to the players. And Ryan, you know this like I do. You go on campus, you see some pretty girls, guys. You know they want a girl, and that's being honest.
Okay, but Antoine, look, I agree with you. I mean, we all were recruited. We all went on trips. We all went and got hosted at various places. Okay, but there's a couple of things here that kind of stand out to me. One is just go to a normal college party. Like you just said, hey, you go on campus and you see pretty girls, and if you're a kid and you're 18 years old and you're going on your trip, you get enamored by that. That's fine. But there's difference between bringing in escorts, paying for them, versus, okay, hey, a kid goes to a party and happens to meet a girl that actually goes to that campus, and they have a connection. There's a difference.
Apparently, this young lady or group of young ladies were the closers. They were sealing the deals, as you would say. And you're right, Sean. When young kids go to college or they go on these recruiting trips, they go to parties. And if they have the game too, they can meet a young lady, but maybe some of these recruits didn't have the game, and they wanted them to come out with the college experience. And it was absolutely wrong. But if Coach Pitino had nothing to do with this, didn't know, I guess it was under his watch, and you can't prove it. There's nothing in court that states, or you can find any documents that prove it. Why is he being penalized? And they're
because he's the CEO of the company. And it's no different than hold on. There's no different than this and the CEO of Volkswagen when they had the smog issue with that they were fooling around with the system so it would pass the cars would pass smog checks even though it wasn't actually happening. The CEO represents the entire company. Because he represents the entire company, regardless of whether or not he knew the day-to-day operations of what was going on, the checks and balances underneath him, you are held accountable. That's business.
That's true.
I don't know if I agree with that, Sean. I hear what you're saying.
But that's true in all facets, though. It's true. It's outside of sports.
The responsibility does come back to Coach Pitino, and I'm not defending him because I have a personal relationship with him. But I'm telling you, it's a reason why. You can check the track record on this. Coach Pitino does not get the elite players out of high school. He does not. I mean, since he's been at Louisville, he's had very good players. He's had some top 100 players.
Yeah.
But he does not get the guys that you hear about that are going to be one and done. He does not get them. And it's the reason why he doesn't get them because he really does not want to do anything illegal. He does not want to cheat.
Yeah.
He does not want to cheat or sell a kid a dream. So I can believe that he's not doing anything extra when he gets a kid on campus to get kid sex. I don't think he knew about that was going on. I don't think he's not going to do it.
Sean,
yeah, but by the way, I'm not saying that.
I hear you, but I don't think the captain has to go down with the ship in this stance because you know who did
by the way,
you know what they did.
But it actually will. It actually will with even the guy that just got hit in the naval vessel over in Japan. That guy that was captain of that ship, whether he was in the bay or not, he is going to be accountable for the fact that ship got hit by that cargo ship. That's just the way it is. You know, I mean, you guys, again, I'm not saying that, okay, he totally knew what was going on. It's totally his fault. But there is some responsibility. You hired that assistant coach.
So, Sean, should they lose their championship over this? Going all the way back to 2013?
I'm not against by the way, I dislike vacating wins.
Sean,
I think vacating wins
Sean, let me ask you a question. Now, you heard Rick Pitino in his press conference talk about the assistant coaches, the 31 assistant coaches that he's helped become.
His coaching tree is as impressive as anyone's in the game.
So let's think about this. And you know that we're all ex-players. And sorry, Ryan, I know you're still a player. I'm sorry. But so we're all still playing. Just say we're ex-players. And I pick up the phone and I call Coach Pitino. And he gives me a chance. I'm an ex-player of his. He said, you say, look, Coach, I want to get into coaching. Can you give me an opportunity? And that's what I think he did. He gave one of his ex-players that helped turn the Louisville program around, who he thought can one day become a coach. He gave him a position, player development or whatever. He was a guy that was sitting behind the bench. He was a guy that he can use for the young guys, live in a dorm with the guys, make sure everything is under control. So he trusted him. So you could get mad at him because he took a chance on a young guy. And if I'm the NCAA, I got to look at his track record. I got to look at the 31 coaches, the non-mistakes. These guys have moved on. you always, you can't be perfect. He made one mistake with a young guy, gave him a chance, gave him some authority to take care of his guys, take care of the recruits. He did not know that he was taking the money that he's probably supposed to have been buying food and taking these guys out to eat with and getting them a prostitute. The money was really small. These girls were giving them $100, $50, $100. It wasn't like a lot of money.
Can I say what you want? You didn't quite want to go there, but can I go there? Fellas, Twan and Sean, can I go there? I like that sound. Twan and Sean.
It's the locker room, baby. Go there.
Okay, we're in the locker room, and I'm going to put this out. Something that you got, everybody knows. So this is why if I'm Pitino, I'm really upset. I know for a fact these kids are coming to college for hundreds and thousands of dollars, okay? Who, when, and where, I'm not saying, and I'm not putting that out, for hundreds of thousands of dollars right in front of the NCAA. Right in front of them. This is the business that's been happening since the New Alcindor days, okay? Hundreds of thousands of dollars. No penalties, no fines, and there's one coach that made a mistake, okay? He went in. And this wasn't even a big money mistake. And we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now, it's absolutely wrong. And I don't put it on Pitino, Sean. Unfortunately, I'm not putting it on him. He tries to coach right, he tries to live right, and do the right things. And you don't go after these programs that are back-to-back getting these kids. There's no accidents that they're going to the universities that they're going to, okay? And I'm going to leave it, I'm going to put it out there, and I'm going to leave it as blank as that, okay? As simple as that. So if I'm Pitino, I'm upset because, as Twan said, he's not getting the big players.
Well, actually, he has the number 13th ranked player overall in the country, Brian Bowen, coming in this year that is considered to be potentially a one-and-done kid at 6'7", a small forward. And he did actually sign. He was the final top 100 kid to really make his commitment. He will be at Louisville next year. We're going to continue this conversation. We're going to continue this conversation. We're not getting off of it. We're not ducking and running. We're staying inside the locker room. Sean Farnham, Ryan Hollins, Antoine Walker here on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Kids are out of school. It's Father's Day here on ESPN Radio. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join Fuel Rewards program at fuelrewards.com/gold today. It's a great day. Happy Father's Day to everybody out there listening. The Locker Room, Sean Farnham. Ryan Hollins is with me, as well as Antoine Walker here on ESPN Radio, talking right now about the NCAA and Rick Pitino and the Louisville scandal and how it's all broken down, including, obviously, Antoine Walker being here, who played for Coach Pitino. Here's Coach Pitino talking at his press conference about the NCAA and about how his vision is and how this is all shook out.
I once saw Jimmy Valvano, and this was way before he got sick, and I recommended him for a pro job, and he was going through some tough times at NC State. And then I saw him later on, and when he was just about getting sick, I said, Jim, how you feeling? He said, the NCAA investigation broke down my immune system. And I always thought about that, and I asked Bobby if that was true, that I remember it the right way, and he said yes. And believe it or not, it can tear you apart, inside and out. That 11-hour meeting, besides everything else, can kill you inside because you know what you stand for and what you believe in. So what do? Do you say, let me pack it in, like this gentleman alluded to, let me do something else in life, let me go? Leaders lead. I plan on staying here and winning multiple championships, not just one. I plan on going to multiple Final Fours, not just one. And that's what leaders do. They lead the players they're coaching. They ask for forgiveness for what happened, for one of your employees did. You were extremely contrite. I know the committee was sickened by it, but so are we. But we did not deserve what they gave us, and that's the bottom line.
That's Coach Pitino at his press conference just the other day, an announcement of the outcome of the Louisville escort scandal. We're talking about it, and guys, there are so many different ways. Ryan, you were taking us down a direction as far as understanding there's two ways to look at this. One is it fair to blame the CEO if the CEO doesn't know every single detail? Now, we've all been on teams. Ryan, you and I both played at UCLA. We were recruited by multiple schools. Antoine, obviously, your career speaks for itself at Kentucky. You had the opportunity to go on many trips. On every trip you went on, there was probably something that the NCAA, and I'm just being honest, something the NCAA would say, yeah, that was probably a violation. I was actually ruled ineligible for about 3.5 hours. And that happened during the investigation. into then Coach Jim Herrick at UCLA when I was there. Coach Herrick was relieved of his position. The NCAA came in, did an investigation. I was the final recruit that came in for Coach Herrick. So they went through with a fine-tuned comb through my recruiting trip. They found a violation that basically it was very, very minor. It accounted to, I think, $75 that was spent over what was allowed by the NCAA. I had to restore my eligibility, write a check to a charity for $75. I chose the American Cancer Society. And I wrote the check, and my eligibility was restored. It was not something that I had any knowledge of because, let's be honest, 18-year-old kids, how many NCAA rules did you guys know when you walked on campus, what was legal and what was not legal on your recruiting trip?
It's tough. I mean, they try to break it down to you. But you're 17, 18 years old. You're not necessarily paying attention to the rules.
No.
I mean, you're not paying attention, especially as an athlete. You're not paying attention to that. And I just even look at, you talk about when I got recruited. So you got to think about the recruiting process. I had 10 home visits. I took 5 visits, obviously, to different universities. And, it's a process that you go through. And, as an athlete, you're getting hit with so many different things. And these college coaches and assistant coaches are trying their best to recruit you. And it's funny, Billy Donovan started recruiting me. And, obviously, when I came in, Billy went to the University of Marshall and took the head coaching job there. But for me as a player, I wanted to go to Kentucky. I like their style of play. I was already intrigued. But it ain't every player not intrigued by that university. So you get on these campuses, and these coaches are trying to win you over. Obviously, you don't want to win them over with sex. But, they're doing whatever they can to win you over. So you may break a rule or two. It may not. Obviously, you don't want to be to extreme to prostitution where you're paying girls to have sex with players, but you're going to break a rule or two. So the NCAA, they should understand that we're trying to do whatever we can to get this kid who's getting recruited by 10 other schools that are also doing the same thing.
Hey, fellas, and I got a story on the other end. I remember being recruited, and I signed and committed to St. Louis University originally. Then I got up my deal. I was supposed to go to Washington with Coach Lorenzo Romar, and at the last second, I signed to UCLA. Then one of the most funny and most crazy NCAA
you have
stories
commitment
ever.
Issues, Ryan?
I definitely
Ryan, you got
had
some commitment issues?
I had issues. I had huge issues. So check this, fellas. I'm a high school kid in sunny Pasadena, California. After we finished working out, one of the workouts Romar came to, he set up a home visit after. I lived close enough because I wasn't this high, big recruit. I could walk home from school. Me, Romar, nobody else, not a soul on campus. I said, Coach, can you give me a ride home? No, it's a violation. Coach Romar then proceeds to drive his car along me as I walk home. And I'm like, Coach, just let me get in the car. I live 2 blocks down. Let me get to the house. No, Ryan, I'm not breaking the rule. We get to the house, okay? My parents aren't home yet, so he takes off. He goes, hey, I'm going to go to the store. I'm going to grab something to eat or drink or whatever. Do you want something? I said, yeah, Coach, grab me an orange juice, okay? Cool. He gets back. Romar looks at me and says, I need $1.29 for that orange juice. This is completely by the book, but some nonsense from the NCAA, but I applaud Coach Romar over and over again for doing that and sticking to the books, fellas.
Well, see, and I think this is the issue, and we're going to continue this conversation in the next segment here on the Locker Room with Ryan Hollins, Antoine Walker, and Sean Farnham. You're talking about the rules of the book. There is a lot of rules in the NCAA book. How do you fix it? How do you make it more concise or easier to put some common sense in there as well? So if you're going out and you're watching a player, that you could drive them home and it's A-OK. That becomes the big question for so many. And puts it in this gray area that Coach Pitino and Louisville has had to deal with. Teams like Syracuse has dealt with it. North Carolina continues to deal with it. USC on the football side of things. Over and over again, we read these headlines, but how do you fix it? We'll get into that next here on the Locker Room with Sean Farnham, Ryan Hollins, Antoine Walker on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
This is the Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Locker Room with Sean Farnham, Ryan Hollins, Antoine Walker here on ESPN Radio. We've spent the last 2 segments talking about the NCAA, its punishment of Rick Pitino, and the program overall at Louisville. And now we kind of go into the NCAA a little bit. So we've talked a little bit about how Rick Pitino being the CEO of the company, I said being the CEO of the company, you hold a certain level of responsibility of a major corporation. And that's kind of the vision that I had. Others have disagreed that are sitting here with me, and that's perfectly fine as well. But, fellas, as we talk about this, we try to be progressive, and ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, comparing rates to help you save. Now that's Progressive. Right. Call or click today and find out how much Progressive could save you. The NCAA as an entity, and it's flawed. It's flawed in the way that it investigates, the length of time in which it takes to investigate some of these things, or when it chooses to investigate. And I think that is a big problem in the public court when it looks at college athletics as a whole, because there is no consistency in the way that things are delivered or the punishments that are levied out, Ryan.
Sean, it drives me absolutely nuts. And I can't even say that I feel. I know they pick and choose when they want to hammer guys, when they want to come down. And I'm gonna print this out, and I know I talked about certain players taking money and teams doing illegal things and having illegal actions. And I think of USC, and I'm going to call out USC. I'm going to bring up USC, not to slander SC or go down on them, but everybody knew these guys were taking money. You had players driving around in Escalades, Range Rovers, diamond necklace. They weren't all. The whole team had sidekicks. There was no one on that SC in that era back in 2006, and the time that I was there, even hiding that they were getting paid, and they were winning championship on top of championship, and it was a dynasty not just for college football, but on the West Coast. They represented the whole West Coast in football. There were millions of dollars being thrown around with this USC team. Okay. They wait 10-plus years later to bring down all the sanctions and hit them over the head and try to take away their championships and take away everything they won. You knew what was going on. You could have been a blind man walking through SC and said, man, that's Reggie Bush on 24s right now with a gold chain on. Okay, everybody's getting paid. And it was a beautiful thing. Hey, listen, Sean, don't get mad at me. Don't get mad when I say this. But I was a USC football fan. I love watching Reggie and Lindell and those guys. And those guys play football. It was fun to watch. I didn't want the NCAA to break it up. I didn't. But it frustrates me. You feel me, Twan? Because they pick and choose, right?
Okay,
Twan?
And that's fine. But how the question isn't picking and choosing. That's no.
It is.
All right,
it is, Sean. What? That's not fair. They say they're fair. They're not fair.
How do you fix it? I'm focused. Okay. I'm trying to be progressive, Ryan.
Okay.
I'm trying to find.
My fault. I'm trying to
brought to you by Progressive Insurance, by the way. That's an extra read right there in that segment. All right, but how do we progressively fix this? And to me, I think it starts very simple. And Antoine, I want to get your thoughts on this. I think that there needs to be a commissioner for both football and basketball at the NCAA level. Someone that is an actual point person that can then set up a structure and a system so that there is a length and limit as far as, an infraction is made aware of on this date. You have 90 days to complete your side of it. We'll have 90 days to do ours. We figure it out, and it's done. It's no longer this 6-7 year drawn-out process that we see in the NCAA. Your thoughts, Antoine?
Antoine, can I ask you this, too? Why are these guys – why are they getting all this money? Why are they getting all these chains? Why do they need that? Why do they have to take it also, Twan? Can you hit that also?
Well, one, I do agree with you, Sean. I think things will work out much better if we was to have, committees to just deal with those particular sports. And then I think the punishment should be, it should go off what, say like Rick Pitino, if he's had a history in the past of breaking rules. I think then obviously you have to really investigate and look into this because this has been an ongoing thing. But if this is a coach in a university, if you haven't had any problems out of them, I think you got to take that in consideration too. I think you got to look at the whole body of work before you just, lay down these rules and these sanctions on people when they may not did anything wrong in the past. And everybody's entitled to make a mistake. And I'm not saying that Coach Pitino should not have been punished. Sean, I understand what you're saying. He is the CEO of that team and everything that goes on there. But I believe that Coach Pitino's not, when he's finished with dinner and he turns over the recruit to his assistant coach or a player development guy, that he knows what they're going to do. He knows they're going to have a good time. They're going to make sure that their kids have enough money so they can for the recruit. I don't think he knows what's going on. But I think you got to think about it. Most of these kids, and I come from a challenged background to answer your question, Ryan, we come in and we don't have a lot. And I think sometimes the parents and these AAU coaches, and they'll ask the university for some money. I was in a situation when I came out where I had another player. I'm not going to call him out. Say, listen, if we go to this particular university, we can both get X amount of dollars. And I was like, nah, that's not the school I want to go to. The money did look good. It did sound good to me. and for me, it's for different reasons. I think, and even to take it even deeper. I was 17 years old when I had my first child. I was a senior in high school. I was not prepared to be a father. I was not prepared financially to be a father. So obviously, when I went to Kentucky, I told Coach Pitino, I said, hey, can I spend my summer doing a summer job so I'm able to get some money back, to my baby moms and help out around the house? And Coach Pitino was like, okay, fine, I'm going to find you a job. Wow. And I ended up working for a bricking company. Didn't know anything about bricks, but I was working for a bricking company in Kentucky. And, this is back in 1994 where I was making like $10 an hour, but that was a lot of money for me. Yeah. And, to be able to get a check every week for, 8 weeks and to be able to send that back home was big for me. So, I mean, it's tough. That's why a lot of these kids sometimes may take money. It's easy to, convince a kid to come to your school because of the money aspect, because they come from challenged backgrounds.
I think there's also another avenue to look at here. And again, I think the importance is that the NCAA needs to start having a specialized outside, like, okay, here's our commissioner of college basketball. He's going to oversee it. Whether it's a guy like Jay Billis, who does a great job with us on games, I think he'd be a great commissioner for college basketball as well, or a former coach of great significance that understands the backgrounds and the rules to simplify the rule book. So simplify the rule book. You have far too many rules. As Ryan was saying in the last segment, Lorenzo Romar couldn't even drive him 2 blocks from a practice home so he could do a home visit. That doesn't make sense. I mean, just common sense has to be applied at some point in time in some of these things. The other aspect of it is this. If you are a dancer, what do you major in college? Dance.
Dance.
If you want to be a doctor, what do you major in? Well, you major in something that's pre-med related. If you want to be an actor, what do you major in? Theater. If you are an athlete, what do you major in? Whatever the school tells you to, in a lot of cases, right? You have academic advisors that try to set things up. I think that the NCAA needs to start looking at also a potential major that makes sense. What if you were an athlete like yourself, Antoine, who and Ryan, you guys both went on and played professional basketball at the highest of levels. You've made millions of dollars, both of you. All right. What if you had a major in a class and you're at Kentucky and you're at UCLA and you're mandated to take basic econ class to tell you, okay, hey, like this is how money breaks down. This is how much you're going to lose in taxes.
You want me to call it out, Sean? I'll call it out. You want me to call it out?
Go.
At UCLA, you can only take history, poli-sci, or psych. And I'm not going to be a history teacher when I finish. I have no interest. Now, I got my degree, but
listen,
that's
Joe
all
Wall
nice
was
and
an
dandy.
amazing professor.
Professor Corey, shout out to Professor Corey, UCLA.
I mean, but everybody's different.
It's
different, though, right? I mean, no, seriously, not to take it. I mean, at Kentucky, when I went to school, you go in and obviously you meet with the academic advisors and you say, hey, listen, I want to be a business manager. Okay, they like, okay, we'll try to figure this out for you. But they're going to figure out what teacher for you to be with, a teacher that they know that's not going to give you a hard time because if you're out of town for 2 days and not beat you up when you come back and have all this work for you and make you feel like you're behind in class. So the school is going to direct you. And, they got it even easier now. I remember I was down in Louisville working out and just sitting in the office, Coach Pitino, he was like, half the kids take online classes and they on campus.
Wow.
And I mean,
that was we just met the internet when I was in college.
Yeah,
the first email account I ever had was at UCLA.edu.
That wouldn't have worked for some of. Hey, Sean, can we stop dancing around this big pink elephant in the room? Can we stop dancing around it? Because you're talking about fixes and commissioners and classes. Collegiate athletes need to get paid. Or the money that they're making doesn't need to go into these schools. So they make 100% of the profit, and they say, hey, hey, Antoine, you get your education back. We come from environments where we're struggling. And I came from an environment where this really it was a horrible middle ground because my dad made just enough money that I couldn't get financial aid, but he really didn't make enough money just to be shoveling money and buying me things. He had to go and take out loans. So I'm an athlete, and my father, I love him to this day. Rest in peace, Dad. Been 2 years. I miss you. I love you every single day. He had to take out loans to get me through college. And then it's almost like, well, once I get to the NBA, I'm glad internally with our family, I was able to work that out. We worked that out. We took care of each other. But, Twan, a lot of these kids, they don't have this opportunity. So when they leave school or when they get to school and they don't want to go to class because they're in the gym or they're just 17-year-old knuckleheads, they're not being prepared for life in college.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
The Locker Room with Sean Farnham. I'm with Ryan Hollins, Antoine Walker here on ESPN. Tune in to American League battle for Sunday Night Baseball as the Astros host the Red Sox, presented by GNC. Coverage begins tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and the ESPN app at 8 p.m. on ESPN. With that, Father's Day is always a great time to talk about our love for our fathers, all the things that our fathers have done so right for all of us. Yet sometimes there's a little humor to be found, and Lonzo Ball took that in this Foot Locker ad. If you haven't heard it, haven't seen it, you definitely should. We're going to play it for you right now.
Dads are special. So many memories. All those games of one-on-one in the driveway where he let me win. Just never missing a game. Of course, there's that big day when your dad berates your high school coach in front of an entire crowd for not getting you enough touches. Waking up early to drive to all those faraway tournaments. Or that special moment when your dad sits you down and tells you where you're going to college. Copyright your name to make it a part of a family lifestyle brand. Went on First Take and shouted back and forth with Stephen A. Smith about how you're already better than the reigning league MVP. All those interviews from the stands during college games, the public spats with the all-time great, soundbite after soundbite to the national media, and then tells 29 out of 30 teams to not bother drafting you. And fishing. We went fishing a lot.
It's a great ad. If you haven't seen it, in there you have Jason Tatum, De'Aaron Fox, and Lonzo Ball. Lonzo Ball, I think it was pretty clear if you couldn't catch which part he played in that role. The question is this. All right, Lonzo Ball has taken a lot of hits based on things that his father has said, LeVar Ball. Does this ad humanize Lonzo Ball? Does it make your opinion on Lonzo Ball change at all for you in particular, Antoine, who may not know Lonzo as well?
I think obviously it made me aware that he knows what his father's doing. He's comfortable with that. He's okay with it. He doesn't feel like he's hurting them. He feels like he's helping them, and he has helped them. I mean, and all I could do is put myself in their shoes. I grew up in a single-family home. My mom raised me. I didn't really have my father in my life, so I appreciate. I like the fact that he's got his father in his life like that, and is so much really involved in the things that he's doing. But the other part of it too is that I look at him coming back to have to work out for the Lakers a second time. And sometimes your father can be involved a little bit too much because he talks about. I read a letter that he wrote, a player's tribute that he talked about. Yep. His father works him out, and he, you may need to be with somebody else because the Lakers bring you back again, not because of your basketball ability, but I've read that he was a little bit out of shape, and not getting the proper, So when you can't be out of shape, and Ryan knows this, and Sean, that when you're getting ready to get ready for the league, you're in your best shape in your life. You're working out 3 times a day. You're ready to go. And for the Lakers to have to bring you back in the second time, I think that's where he's doing a disjustice to him. But all the other things as far as promoting him to be the best player he possibly can be, that he's going to dominate the NBA, I have no problem with. I mean, he's putting the price tag on his son's head that everybody's going to want to go at him. But I love the fact that he did that because I didn't grow up with a father figure like that was able to push me and to support me and cheer me on and try to put me in the best position possible. So I love those things about him. I thought it was a great ad. And obviously he's going to be a good professional. I think Alonzo's going to be a great player.
Ryan, your thoughts, obviously a former UCLA basketball player yourself, in Lonzo and the way that he's handled all the scrutiny that his dad has created.
Yeah, that's tough. And like Twan said, it humanizes him. And from everyone in the locker room, everyone who's come across Lonzo Ball, they say he's the most humble, great teammate, hard-working. I've seen videos of him in the gym late nights getting up shots. But there are the masses that don't see that and don't hear these reports. And, Sean, on the flip side, LeVar scares us, and as players, as a guy coming to your organization, coming to your team, because we've seen teammates like that, especially in college or sometimes in the pros, where they have a wild daddy, and when they normally have a wild daddy, the kid takes on that same MO. And you go, man, I don't like this dude, or, your dad telling you to shoot, and you come in the game, you ain't passing the ball. It's like, my turn, your turn, or, Twan, we know those guys. If you throw them the rock, it's not coming back, okay? Right. So Lonzo's not one of those guys, and I love that he did this ad just to clear the air with everybody across the planet and just saw, like, hey, like, he can laugh at the situation, he can step back from it, and yes, my dad's crazy. I love this dude to death, but I'm not an idiot. I'm not a bantering fool, okay? This is just my dad having my back.
First of all, we're all fathers, and I have 3 kids, and I'm sure that there are things that I do or have already done in my 12-year-old, 10-year-old, or 6-year-old's life that they would look at
Farnham.
Like, oh, man, what's wrong with my dad? Like, that wasn't great, okay? The difference being is when I make those mistakes, I'm not making them on national television. I'm not making them in the public eye often. And those mistakes usually probably come within the confines of my house or even within us in a car ride or whatnot, coming home from a sporting event, being maybe a little bit too hard and being like, why didn't you do this or why didn't you do that? All right? Lonzo has had to deal with his father all season long, and obviously more than just this season, but this season brought the spotlight onto his family.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I will tell you, and you brought it up, Ryan, is I was able to spend time with Lonzo quite often this year covering college basketball for ESPN, and I was there at practices even back in July before they even went to Australia. Then I was back at practices in September and October, and then I did his final home game against Washington State. He is a very humble basketball player, and if you were to ask me, is there any player, if you had the most confidence that any one player in this draft could make your team better immediately, I would tell you it's Lonzo Ball. Even over Markelle Fultz, even over Josh Jackson. And the reason is because it's not just about his individual talent. His greatest individual talent is making every individual better.
Yeah.
That is an amazing talent and skill set to have. So then I think any NBA team that is apprehensive based on his father or looking at that and holding him against, I implore you, go watch the film. If you take TJ Leaf and you have him play on another team that doesn't have Lonzo Ball, I'm not sure TJ Leaf is a one-and-done basketball player. And that is not disrespectful to TJ Leaf. I think he's a very talented player.
No.
But I don't think he's one-and-done. I think he's one-and-done because he had a point guard. And we mentioned this earlier, positionless basketball, guards, wings, bigs. That's how we're kind of looking at the game. Lonzo breaks away from that moniker because he is a true point guard that loves and excels at distributing the ball and getting it to his teammates. You start holding his father and what his father does or what his father has said against him in the way that you view this draft, I think a team that does that is going to miss out on a player that immediately makes their roster better, and it's unfair to Lonzo Ball.
Without question, I agree with you 100%, Sean. I think, and you guys obviously went to UCLA, probably watched him much more than I did. But just the eye test and the basketball IQ is at another level than anybody else in this draft. The ability that he can to make other people better is second to none. And if people don't know, the hardest position and the best position in the NBA right now is the point guard position. So in order for the Lakers to turn their organization around, they're going to have to get a good point guard. And what better way to start with this guy? This guy has all the potential to be a great point guard. He has good size. He's got great passing ability. He can make others better. So I think people got to look at his basketball ability. Obviously, he'll be in L.A. where his father lives at. I think maybe that could be a small concern for Magic them if they got to deal with that. But obviously you don't have to deal with the parents once you become a professional athlete. And you can cut off his access if you want to. Yep. And I'm sure LeVar does not want to be cut off from being able to watch his son play in the NBA, and something he's waited for a long time. So I don't think they should hold that against him. I don't think teams are going to hold that against him. I think they know how talented he is. I think obviously, and when I came out, I worked out for 9 different teams, and I was projected to be a lottery pick. I think he kind of handcuffed himself a little bit. I don't think you just say you work out for one team. I know you're trying to position yourself in there, and that's where he could, if Magic and them decide not to take him, and it's tough to draft a guy. Yeah, it's tough to draft a guy that you hadn't seen play. So I think if I was projected to be a top 5 pick, I'm gonna work out for the top 5 or 6 teams. And what am I running from? This is what I waited for my whole life. You should be excited about working out for teams. You should be excited about meeting GMs and coaches. This is what you waited for your whole life. But that's a whole nother different story. But hopefully it doesn't affect him, and that this could be something that affects him if the Lakers do not take him at 2.
You know what I love best about this whole entire ad is we finally turned the discussion away from LeVar and back to Lonzo. And that's what I think the impact of this ad truly was. It's not just about humanizing Lonzo Ball and showing a side of humor that he has, but it brought the discussion back to him as a player, him as a person, and not about the other things on the outside that, by the way, he can't control his father. He can't control what his dad says or how often a microphone is put in front of his face. That's just the way it is. We'll talk Mayweather. Go ahead, Ryan.
Why is he the focal point of that ad? Why did he have that commercial, the biggest part? Because of his dad.
Yes. Well, no, I think it allowed him to have that. I mean, I think that's the one thing that happened.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, but it gave him a platform to finally have a voice, because the one thing that's been lacking through this draft process for Lonzo Ball has been his voice. Whether it's who's going to work out for, or who he's not going to work out for. It's never been him talking about it. It's always been somebody else. I think this flip is a good thing for Lonzo heading into this NBA draft.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Locker Room with Sean Farnham, Ryan Hollins, and Antoine Walker here on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We're proud to share that Mike and Mike have been nominated for the National Radio Hall of Fame, and this vote will be determined by the fans. That means you. Vote by text or online at radiovote.com or text 49400 and send the message 70 for Mike and Mike. Again, text 49400, send the message 70 to vote for Mike and Mike, or go online to www.radiovote.com to cast your vote there. One vote is permitted by cell and email address. Voting closes June 19th. All right, there's always that moment, guys. There's always that moment when you wake up, and we've been talking about this for a couple of weeks. It's what I call the Oprah moment. And so we're going to get all Oprah-like on the show today. That aha moment. When was that aha moment for you where you all of a sudden realized that, guess what, you're pretty good. You could make it. And I'll start with you, Antoine Walker.
Well,
I mean, you're from Chicago, so I figured if we're going to talk Oprah, we've got to lean towards you first.
No, I was a junior in high school, and obviously, my sophomore year, I played in the Nike All-American camp, and then next year I played in Adidas camp. But the NCAA changed the rules that you had to play with your state in the camp. So I go to camp. I was one of the 10 guys selected from Chicago to go play in the Adidas camp, and Felipe Lopez was the GOAT of high school basketball. If you guys remember back then when Felipe Lopez was the GOAT of basketball. Yeah, he was everything. So I come into camp, and we brought a point guard down, and the first day there, he twisted his ankle. He's out. And Mr. Irvin, who was the coach at the time, was like, "Hey, Antoine, you're going to be the point guard." Ooh. I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, you got the ball. You're the point guard." So I took off from there. I ended up at camp averaging almost close to a triple-double. I mean, played out my mind. Played out my mind. And my confidence level went to the roof. I left camp ranked like 3 or 4 in the country in most publications, behind Felipe Lopez and Stephon Marbury. He was ranked up there pretty high. Gerard Ward, Willie Mitchell, all these big-name guys. And I left there 3rd, 4th in the country. And that's when I knew I had arrived. and that I can play at the next level. So after leaving that camp, I started getting recruited. I was already getting recruited, but I was getting recruited by every team in the country, so every school in the country. So I would say that was my aha moment, my junior year in high school at Adidas camp.
All right, Ryan, what about you?
My ha-ha moment, I will probably take you back to Pasadena, California, and I'll give you the landscape. We didn't have 7-footers walking around. I didn't have these great position coaches. I wasn't blessed to All-American or able to go into these camps. And by the skin of my teeth, Farnham, by the skin of my teeth, I made it to UCLA. Coming fresh off of a track and field season, which I had done for the first time ever in my life, and took third in the state in the triple jump, still growing into my body. I actually grew an inch in college, Sean. I don't know if you know that.
Yep, I remember that.
I remember, and if any basketball head knows this, Twan, and I know you've come down and played, UCLA has always had the best runs during that time of with all the pros. Everybody would come down to UCLA. It's historic for that. And these runs were still going on. And I remember my first time getting to UCLA, we're kind of privy, and Sean, you know this, we're privy to the runs, to kind of hop in the runs and, play. And all of a sudden I'm looking over, I'm like, dude, that's Earl Watson. That's Joe Johnson. That's, Samaki. I'm naming all these pros, and I'm like, dude, I'm on the court with these guys. Twan, I'm excited. I'm geeked. I'm ready to go. Next thing you know, I catch something off the rim. I'm windmilling. I'm bodying some guys, and I'm like, dude, 6 months ago, I wasn't even on a college radar, and now I'm dunking on these professionals. I said, ha-ha. I could make something of myself.
And you know what's crazy? Real quick before Sean tell yours, but that's crazy. He is 100% right about that. Joe's UCLA run used to be legendary.
Ooh.
They used to be legendary. People need to know that used to be legendary runs with every. I mean, it used to be 40 pros in the gym.
Kevin Garnett, Baron Davis, Paul Pierce. I mean, this was.
The list goes on. It used to be 40 pros in the gym.
Yeah, see, here's the difference between you guys. You guys made millions of dollars in the league. So your aha moment is, hey, when did you realize you're going to be good enough?
Not hundreds.
I've gone to basketballreference.com. You've done very well for yourself, Ryan. All right, but when you talk about realizing how good you can be, okay, there was a moment when I played for the Oakland Soldiers in high school. I realized I could play at the college level, and Eddie House was my teammate. Right? Well, this is long before that.
You set the stage for Bron.
But Eddie House was my teammate, and we both did really well down in Arizona, and all of a sudden letters started coming in. That was an aha moment for me, but that's not my aha moment. My aha moment actually came at UCLA. All right, and you guys are going to say, well, how did you realize that, Sean? Well, my aha moment is when I realized I had tapped out, and meaning that I have gone to the pinnacle of where I was going to go. And a great moment, and you talk about those legendary runs. You talk about those guys of Baron Davis, Earl Watson, and Paul Pierce, and them being when they were pros. See, when I was there, Ryan, they were all in college or just coming out of high school. So those weren't even the guys. So instead, we had guys like Magic.
Irving.
We had Shaq. We had Kobe.
Man.
We had that mixture of guys. Vin Baker. There's a name nobody's really probably said in a while, but Vin Baker was there, and he was an unbelievable player.
Bad boy.
Chauncey Billups. All these guys were playing out in those runs. And one of the stories, and I've told this before, was Vin Baker was guarding Shaquille O'Neal. Chauncey was in the corner. Paul Pierce kicked to Chauncey. Vin Baker leaves. Now, if you've ever watched me play, Ryan, you know me very well. I was like a stickler for fundamentals and being in the right position, right? So I'm in help side position. Shaq is now vacated because Vin Baker has closed out the corner. Immediately the ball gets dumped down underneath. Shaq takes his right elbow, goes right through my chest, and smashes it with his left hand as I go sliding across the floor. And I look up and go, oh, my God, I just got dunked on. And he looked at me, I was only Shaq can, and said, don't sweat it, kid. I dunk on everybody. And at that moment, I realized, A, he's 100% correct, but B, this was going to be my end destination in the sport of basketball. And I was okay with that. So I have a different aha moment because that was those games and those runs separated. You know, for a lot of people out there, and you guys know this, they go, oh, I could play with the pros. Until you play with the pros, you don't know that you can play with the pros. That's my, you like to think you're good and you like to think you're accomplished and everything you did in your high school career that got you to where you got to. But you also have to remember when I was in college was the lockout. year.
Ooh.
And in the lockout year, you took those runs at UCLA, and I'm just, again, being honest, I would skip class just to watch them. Not even guaranteed to get out on the floor, but I would skip class to watch them during the lockout because you had everybody in the world in Westwood partaking in those runs. But that was my aha moment. It's more than just, okay, I'm good. Sometimes your aha moment is also when, okay, I'm tapping out. I got nothing left here. This is about as good as it's going to get.
The time pool was too big for you, but
I mean, look, and it's you have to be authentic and you have to be real with it. You have to look at it and acknowledge it. There's a time in everyone's life where you can say, yeah, I'm great, or I feel good, and you're in high school and you're smashing on people and your team's going to state championship in California. That's great. Those are great moments. I'm not diminishing that run, but there's also another run that you have to look at and go, there's something different about these dudes. These dudes are – and that's why as a basketball fan, when I look at you two guys and what you were able to accomplish and what so many other guys are doing right now in the NBA, it's pretty amazing to watch. Because it is at the highest of high levels, plain and simple.
And, Sean, I remember my senior year sitting on the bench, things not really going well. I actually injured my groin in warm-ups. Yes, for any hooper, any athlete, if you get injured in warm-ups, you don't tell anybody about that. But I remember looking at myself and talking to a family friend, and he pulled me aside and said, son, you're 7 feet. You can run. You can jump. This UCLA team is going to go as far as you take them. And I'm like, man, we got Farmar, Afalo, Bamute. I don't know why you're looking at me. But he instilled a belief in me that said, hey, you can go and make this happen. And this is your team. This is your opportunity. You're 7 feet and athletic. Everybody doesn't have that in a 40-inch vertical. Go make something of yourself. And I took that run all the way to the championship game. But for me, it was like, hold on, like, wake up. Take advantage of what you have. You have been blessed with blessings that everyone does not have, and go to the NBA, all right? Don't make an excuse of it, because you're going to be the guy that doesn't go to the NBA, and everybody looks back and says, oh, man, you should be in the NBA. What's wrong with you? What are you doing here, bagging groceries or working on
well, I hope you take that history degree from UCLA that you diminished about an hour ago and do something with it instead of bagging groceries, Ryan. But, yeah, you know what? People forget, most outstanding player for UCLA in the West Regional on their run to the national championship game, Ryan Hollins. Ryan Hollins was your most outstanding player for that UCLA team. But, yeah, no, great moments, great excitement, and that's our aha moment. I hope you enjoyed our aha moment. Antoine Walker's aha moment was, I'm the greatest in the country. My aha moment was, I just got smashed on by Shaq. Slightly different.
This is The Locker Room on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.